Welcome back to BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time. Today we're diving into a true classic of self-improvement.
Ooh, a classic.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now you might think, you already know this one. But trust me, there's always something new to discover in a book like this.
That's so true. This book, published all the way back in 1936, still really resonates with readers today, It highlights that core human desire, right?
Yeah.
For connection and the importance of understanding others.
Absolutely. And that's really the foundation of Carnegie's whole approach,
Wow.
understanding human nature and using those insights for better communication, and relationships. And he breaks the book down into 4 parts, each tackling a different aspect of interpersonal skills and influence.
Okay.
So we'll be exploring why criticism can backfire, the power of appreciation, how to win people to your side without being manipulative, which is key.
Right.
And finally, the art of becoming a masterful leader.
And I think what strikes me about Carnegie's method, what I really enjoy about it is, the emphasis on sincerity.
Yeah.
It's not about tricks or shortcuts,
Right.
It's about genuinely connecting with people and building those meaningful relationships.
Right. It's not advocating for like some manipulative mind game.
Right.
So let's jump into part 1. It dives right into a concept that might surprise some people. Criticism rarely works.
Yeah.
It often backfires, actually. Have you ever noticed how defensive you get when someone points out your flaws?
It's almost an instinctive reaction, isn't it?
Totally.
Carnegie points out that people rarely blame themselves. We're wired to justify our actions. So when someone criticizes us, it triggers that, triggers a defense mechanism, makes us less likely to change.
That makes sense. Instead of inspiring positive change, it makes people just dig in their heels. So what does Carnegie suggest we do instead?
Well, instead of starting with criticism, he suggests beginning with sincere praise
Okay.
and honest appreciation. Highlight what the person's doing well, acknowledge their efforts
Right.
before addressing any areas for improvement. It softens the blow and makes the other person more receptive to your feedback.
So it's like that old saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Exactly. Carnegie emphasizes the importance of approaching people with a spirit of kindness and understanding. He even tells this fascinating story about Charles Schwab,
Yeah.
one of the first American billionaires. Schwab believed his success was largely due to praising his employees more than criticizing them.
Wow.
By focusing on their strengths and accomplishments, he fostered a loyal and motivated workforce.
That's such a powerful example of how positive reinforcement can be more effective than criticism. It makes you think, how could you apply that in your own life? Maybe at work, with your family, or even in your friendships.
Absolutely. It's about shifting your perspective, and focusing on building people up instead of tearing them down. And this leads perfectly into part 2, where Carnegie dives into the incredible power of appreciation.
All right. Let's talk about appreciation. Carnegie says that the deepest craving in human nature is the desire to feel important and appreciated. We all want to feel valued, right? But he's not talking about flattery, is he?
No, not at all. Carnegie distinguishes between flattery, right,
Yeah.
and genuine appreciation. Flattery is superficial and insincere, while genuine appreciation is specific, heartfelt, and focuses on the positive qualities of the person.
So it's not just saying, hey, great job.
All right.
It's about being specific and acknowledging the effort and thought behind someone's actions.
Precisely. It's about making people feel seen and understood, which strengthens relationships and builds trust.
And he even talks about something as simple as remembering people's names, right?
Yeah. He emphasizes how important it is to remember and use people's names.
Yeah.
It shows that you're paying attention and that you value them as individuals. It makes people feel respected and recognized.
It's amazing how such a small thing can make such a huge difference.
It is.
Like you're acknowledging their individuality
Yeah.
and importance. Do you have any tips for remembering names? I'm terrible at that.
One trick Carnegie suggests is to associate the person's name with a vivid image or a funny story.
Okay.
It helps the name stick in your memory better.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I'm definitely going to try that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the pitfalls of criticism and the power of appreciation. But how do you actually get people to see things your way without resorting to manipulation? That's what we'll be exploring in the next section.
Welcome back to BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time.
Ooh, I like that.
As we continue our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people, let's explore how to win others to your way of thinking, without resorting to force or trickery.
Okay, this is the part where I imagine everyone wants to know the secret formula.
Okay.
But I have a feeling Carnegie's approach is less about manipulation and more about genuine understanding.
You're absolutely right. Carnegie, he argues that the best way to influence someone, right, it's not to defeat them in an argument. It's more to understand their perspective.
Okay.
And find that common ground.
So instead of trying to dominate the conversation, like, we should aim to see things from their point of view.
Precisely. He emphasizes the importance of, like, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, really trying to understand their needs, their motivations, and desires.
That makes a lot of sense, because when you feel like someone genuinely understands you, you're much more likely to be open to their ideas.
Exactly. And once you understand their perspective,
right,
then you can present your ideas in a way that aligns with their interests.
Okay.
And makes them feel like they're part of the solution.
So it's about collaboration. It's about finding those win-win solutions where everyone feels heard and respected.
Carnegie gives a great example. A father trying to convince his son to eat vegetables. Instead of forcing the issue, right, he frames it as a way for his son to become strong and healthy, appealing to the child's desire to be like his favorite superhero.
I love that example.
Right.
That's brilliant. By connecting the vegetables to something the child already values, the father makes it a win-win situation.
And this principle, it applies to so many areas of life, whether you're negotiating a business deal, resolving a conflict with a loved one, or even trying to persuade a friend to try a new restaurant, you know?
Yeah.
Understanding the other person's perspective is key.
It's about building those bridges instead of walls. It's finding that common ground instead of digging in our heels.
Right.
So, listeners, I want you to think about an area in your life where understanding the other person's viewpoint could lead to a more positive outcome. Maybe it's a disagreement at work or a recurring argument with a family member.
Right. Challenging yourself to see things from their side can make all the difference in resolving the issue, you know, and strengthening that relationship.
Now, speaking of challenging ourselves, Carnegie doesn't shy away from the topic of leadership. In fact, he dedicates an entire section of the book to becoming a more effective leader.
And this is where Carnegie's insights become truly invaluable. He provides a framework for inspiring and motivating people, you know, without resorting to that force or coercion.
That sounds incredibly relevant, especially in today's world where leadership styles are constantly evolving.
Right.
So how does Carnegie approach this whole art of leadership?
Well, he stresses that true leadership, it's not about demanding obedience or wielding power, you know? It's about inspiring cooperation, encouraging growth, and helping individuals reach their full potential.
That sounds like a much more collaborative and empowering approach to leadership.
Right.
But I imagine it also requires a lot of skill and finesse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carnegie provides these very specific strategies for giving constructive feedback, you know, motivating team members.
Okay.
And fostering a positive and productive work environment.
I'm really curious to learn more about these strategies. Let's delve into the specifics of Carnegie's approach to leadership in our next segment. Welcome back to BookCast FM, bringing books to life, one cast at a time. And we're wrapping up our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people. I'm really intrigued by Carnegie's approach to leadership.
Yeah.
It seems so different from the traditional command and control style.
It definitely is. Carnegie believed that effective leadership, right, is about inspiring and empowering people, not dictating to them, you know. He argues that true leaders, those are the ones who can motivate others to achieve their betters without resorting to force or intimidation.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how do you actually put that into practice? How do you inspire people to follow you willingly without having to rely on your authority or position?
Well, Carnegie provides several concrete strategies for becoming a more effective leader.
Okay.
One of the most important is to, focus on building genuine relationships with your team members. He stresses the importance of, getting to know them on a personal level, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and showing genuine care for their well-being.
So it's about building trust and rapport before you even start trying to lead them.
Exactly. People are much more likely to follow someone they trust and respect.
Yeah.
Someone who they believe has their best interests at heart.
And once you've established that foundation of trust, how do you go about giving feedback or making corrections without, demoralizing people?
Carnegie emphasizes the importance of starting with praise.
Okay.
He suggests, highlighting the person's positive qualities and accomplishments before addressing any areas for improvement.
It's like that sandwich technique. You
Yeah.
deliver the criticism between two slices of praise.
See, precisely. It softens the blow and makes the person more receptive to your feedback.
Right.
Carnegie also suggests, talking about your own mistakes first.
Okay.
This shows vulnerability and creates a sense of common ground. It lets the other person know that, hey, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
And that you've also learned from your mistakes.
That's such a powerful way to disarm someone and make them feel less defensive.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the sting out of the criticism because it's coming from a place of empathy and shared experience.
Another important principle Carnegie highlights is letting the other person save face. Even when someone has made a mistake.
Right.
It's important to avoid humiliating them or making them feel cornered.
So it's about preserving their dignity and giving them a chance to, learn from the experience without feeling ashamed or embarrassed.
Exactly. It's about helping them grow and develop as individuals,
Mm-hmm.
not breaking them down or diminishing their self-worth.
This all ties back to the idea of treating people with respect and understanding, even when they make mistakes. It's about creating a culture of learning and growth where people feel safe to take risks and make mistakes.
And that's ultimately what makes a great leader. Someone who can inspire others to achieve their full potential while creating a positive and supportive environment.
How to Win Friends and Influence People offers a roadmap for doing just that. It provides practical advice and insights that are as relevant today as they were almost a century ago.
Whether you're a CEO, a manager, a parent, or simply someone who wants to improve their relationships with others.
Yeah.
Carnegie's principles can help you navigate the complexities of human interaction with more grace and effectiveness.
I completely agree. This book has been a real eye-opener for me. It's challenged me to think differently about, how I interact with others.
Yeah.
And how I can become a more positive and influential force in the world.
And that's the beauty of Carnegie's work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about winning friends or influencing people. It's
Right.
about becoming a better human being.
Well said. And as we wrap up this deep dive into how to win friends and influence people, I want to encourage all our listeners to pick up a copy of the book. The link is in the description. You won't regret it. It's a timeless classic that can truly transform your life.
And remember the key takeaways from today's episode. Focus on understanding others.
Okay.
Show genuine appreciation, build strong relationships, and lead with kindness and empathy.
That was our deep dive into how to win friends and influence people here on BookCast FM, bringing books to life, one cast at a time. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy reading.